Hello, welcome to the 1878 FM podcast, the first one of 2025. So a happy new year to you all. No Sam Avery today. He's got other personal things to do. Yes, he's got stuff he's doing.
The way you said that.
You know, he has, so there you
He's
go.
got a day in lieu. He worked over
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is that what
He's got a day in lieu.
Not with us, he didn't.
No.
Wishing Dave a very happy new year. Dave, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you? Happy New Year. Are we still allowed to say that? Are we still within the levels of tolerance of Happy New Year? I think it's probably only got another day or so, hasn't it? And then you're not allowed to do it anymore.
Yeah. I thought you meant just in general, because you're not allowed to do a lot of things now. So I thought, saying Happy New Year will be cancelled soon.
No, I think now that we're into the first proper week back, aren't we? I think you can just about say it to people, can't you?
Well, this is like
and tomorrow.
Well, it's just because it's our first one.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say because it's probably like the first week people are back in work properly. I think you can say it this week, but the cut-off is this week.
Yeah. Hey, we'll cut it off today if that's what you want.
No, I mean that's
today.
I'm happy. But did you have a nice break over Christmas, boys? Of sorts.
everything except the football, which is
Should we just get out the way?
no,
Should we just get it out the way?
if you want. I mean,
Because last time we did this was right on Christmas, wasn't it? And Everton had had some draws.
there was a sense of optimism.
Well, yeah, massive. Haven't hardly any shots at any game. No, listen, Everton had had they've got a few games without losing.
I mean, that's always a bonus.
That you can say. Going into Nottingham Forest at home and Bournemouth away was obviously we spoke about it going into December. We'd had Wolves and Forest as the two that you'd said they were hopeful that we might be able to get a win because we're at home. We beat Wolves comfortably, obviously. But Nottingham Forest, Dave was a bit rubbish and then followed up on Saturday at Bournemouth with a bit more rubbish. 2 shots on target in the whole duration of the 2 games. And Everton not really looking like scoring a goal. And that feeling that when you can see the goal, that it's game over, which seems to be the way it is at the moment, puts us at the halfway stage of 19 games played and just 3 victories. And it's all very poor at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. It just looks pitiful at the minute, really. And I think, we could talk about this for hours, obviously, but to perhaps oversimplify it, you're watching the game on Saturday, for example, against Bournemouth, and all we hope for, or certainly all I hope for, and I think we're all in the same boat, is you're sitting there thinking, can we hang on and make this a nils each point, and come away with a draw? And when you analyse that, don't get me wrong, Ariola's done a good job with Bournemouth, and they've got some good players, and they demonstrated it on Saturday, and there's a reason why they are where they are in the table. But still, to be hopeful of coming away with a point from Bournemouth and not scoring any goals is not a happy place to be in the new year at all. And they thoroughly, I thought the scoreline massively flattered Everton, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that could have been a 3 or a 4-0, to be honest with you. The amount of chances that they had, and if it weren't for Jordan Pickford, then I think it certainly would have been a drubbing. And once again, he's saved us, and he's made that scoreline look far more respectable than it perhaps needed to be. So yeah, it's a worry. It's a big worry. That was going to be a tough game. The Forest game was going to be tough, and they both proved to be. And we just don't look like scoring. We could have played all bloody day and all night, and we didn't look like scoring, and that's the problem. And there's no goals on this side, and until that is rectified, then I think we've got a big problem, because we can't be backed against the wall and trying to grind out draws for the rest of the season. That's not going to keep us up. So lots of talk today, obviously, about the Friedkin Group's assessment of the manager post final whistle on Saturday, and I think he's got to go now. I think now's the time he's got to go this week, because if somebody else is going to come in, then they need to have the window, or at least the lion's share of the window. So let's just hope that actually in the background, work has been done on that front, which we've said this every new year for the last few years and nothing has happened. But let's just hope that now something is being done, or has been done, or is in the process of being done in the background to actually change things to give us half a chance of staying up, because at the moment it looks dreadful.
Pat, am I being a fantasist in thinking that when you just have a game of footy, you should like try to score goals. Because I just don't understand. Like, listen, whatever camp you're in with the manager, I don't understand this thing that in his mind, our players are so terrible that they have to sit on the edge of our box because we can't. Hang on, I'll just finish that. Because we haven't got any kind of thought of how to go forward to score a goal. And yet, I watched Ipswich Town yesterday. Yeah. Listen, Liam Delap's doing all right, but he's just a handful. That's all he is. He's not, there's no ability there, as in, like, not a. Hang on, let me rephrase that. There's no, like, when you watch him, you don't look and go, he's going to beat 4 or 5 men. He's a big, powerful young lad who knocks people about. Kieran McKenna's a really good coach, and I think he'd probably end up at the top. But he's got players there that you look at and go, they're all right. But a lot of them, I think 6 or 7 of them, played in League One for Ipswich. But they just fly forward. At a club, Fulham, it's a difficult place to go. Arsenal have found that recently and things like that. And yet, Ipswich just flew forward all day. And they were a injury time penalty away from getting a huge win and going above Everton.
I think what both you just said was it, and I mentioned this over the weekend to a couple of people, is Jordan Pickford has saved us again. Like, it's not the defence, it's Jordan Pickford again has saved us. And every
Forrest should have been 4-0. He made 2 big saves.
And the thing about it is, right, it doesn't matter if they are amazing saves or just normal saves. The fact that he has to make 6 or 7 a game, what does that actually say about the defence? We're saying that it's a or we've got so many clean sheets and it's amazing. You're right. Something has to change. I think that as I've said for ages, the manager is gone in my head. He's gone one way or another. The next phase has to be who replaces him. That can't be a knee-jerk decision. That has to be
and that's the one thing that, just to jump in, that's the one thing that, while we sort of agree that, the timing would seem right strategically now to do it, but the caveat to that being there has to be somebody lined up. We can't just get rid. And I just dearly hope that they do have a plan in the background.
I think that's got to be, if they know what he wants and he's available now, then get him, because ultimately that is the real talk, the real thing, to talk about is like the next guy. Has he got the tools? Is he available now? Is he the one they really want? It can't be going around the houses again. I mean, I just think you look at Dyche, you look at his body language, he looks like he's completely done. Like, to me, I mean, we've talked about this for ages. He just looked, because in both games against, both Forest and Bournemouth, certainly Bournemouth, the last 10 minutes, imagine us being 1-0 up at home. In the last 10 minutes of a game, the opposition are going to come at you, they're going to throw everything at you, they're going to change the thing, change the way they play. We had better one, and it, we brought them on. It didn't change anything, and yet other teams would be throwing diagonals into the box, looking for knockdowns. It didn't change anything.
I felt sorry for Beto because he ended up having to pick the ball up on the edge of our box and run with it. When we're 1-0 down.
So nothing has changed. He to me, Dyche is run out of ideas, and that's why he needs replacing more than any other reason. I mean, there's lots of reasons, but when you get to that stage where you don't know quite what you're doing. I listened to the press conference afterwards, and some of his answers were very, very strange. When he was asked why Mangala was taken off, he said he'd had a personal problem in the week. But so why is he being taken off at that time? That's
playing.
Exactly. If he had a personal issue in the week, then he either plays or he doesn't play.
Yeah,
but that didn't explain hooking him at half time. I didn't understand.
It was really strange, and again, he's made that decision of changing the right midfielder, and he's had to go off at half time again, and he's mixed things. To me, I just think he's completely run out of ideas. And when if anyone is still hanging on to this hope of Sean Dyche, fair enough. I can understand that. He's a pragmatist, and people think he'll eke out the points. But you have to look at it and think, where are we seriously going? 15 goals. Everyone else's, bar Southampton, has got more goals than us. Everyone else is trying to win games. We are, I would say, the only team in the Premier League right now who look like a team in that survival mode. Like even the other team,
half a season.
No, I'm saying even the other teams in the bottom three are still trying. Okay, Southampton have tried to tighten the belts. Ironically, they'd be 5-0 at the weekend. But Leicester are trying to tighten the belts. Everyone is trying to do a little bit better, and we still look like we're in this weird survival mode. And the irony is, it all goes back to that first game against Bournemouth of coasting 2-0 up, playing good football. The best maybe we've probably seen under the Dyche. And because of that terrible last 10 minutes, which he hugely contributed by just standing there, by having, again, a old way of thinking about things, that the starting 11 or certainly 10 of the starting 11 can dog you out a draw. That old way of thinking doesn't work anymore. And the guy in the opposite dugout has got all the new fresh ideas. He's not scared to bring 5 off and 5 on and freshen it all up. And I think they are the differences now, is that Sean Dyche is of a generation that's come and gone. And Premier League football just isn't played like that anymore. Everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to attack. We saw that with the Ipswich game, against going to Fulham, and they're trying to score. Fulham get a goal. If that had been us, pegged back to 1-1, our heads would have gone down. They went down the other end of the pitch and won another penalty. And that's
don't forget, Jack Clark hit the post at 2-1. Fulham broke literally from the same move and got a penalty to make it 2-2. So it could have gone 3-1. And Everton would have been below Ipswich. And that should never be happening. I'm sorry. No matter what. Go through Ipswich's play and listen, whatever. Doesn't matter. But me personally, this Everton team shouldn't be in it.
Dave, have you got an idea of the manager you'd like to see come in at Everton if the decision is made?
I think it's difficult to see anybody much past Potter, isn't it? At the minute, I mean, I know that there is the entire world to look at, but but yeah, I would say Potter is probably the number one choice in terms of someone who's available. I don't know.
Let's address Graham Potter right now, because obviously there's a lot of as of recording this, Sean Dyche is still Everton's manager. It might change, whatever. Graham Potter, just as a hypothetical Everton manager, right? Graham Potter. Mixed reviews about Graham Potter from people, and I understand it. I get it. Done well at Brighton, and obviously got a big move to Chelsea. Chelsea come and took him from Brighton because they could see something in him. I think he's been linked with Manchester City in the past. Pep talked him up, didn't he, and said he'd be one he could replace him at City, and all of that. There's concerns about pressure with him. Can he handle it? Chelsea's a bit of a basket case of a club. Did he handle it well? I don't know. He got sacked ultimately from Chelsea.
Did he have the respect of the dressing room at Chelsea? No, well, that's the big question, though, is whether he's a big enough name to be worthy of listening to for a lot of these players, and that's the reality of the situation, now, isn't it?
No, you listen. You're right. But I think the problem that people have at the moment, like in the mind, is, you pick this manager and he come in and do people respect them and all that? But then you look at like Fabian Herzler at Brighton. He's 31. Does he got the respect of Brighton players? James Milner's there, who's won everything. Does he respect some fella who's about 9 years younger? I don't know, but he's done all right. You look at, Graham Potter went in at Brighton. He'd managed Österland in Sweden and done really well. Östersund, rather. He'd done really well with them and got them to a Champions League quarter-final, which is ridiculous. He went in at Swansea then and done really, got them playing totally different football. So much so that Brighton took him 10 months later and took him there. And what I think a few people overlook is when he went in at Brighton, have a look at their squad. Their squad was playing long, aimless balls up to Glenn Murray, with players who Lewis Dunk, who was a cart horse.
There's a reason why Chelsea took him.
But that's what I'm saying. And over time, he developed. Now, fast forward to Everton, right? I was having a conversation yesterday about managers that Everton have picked since David Moyes went. He went with Roberto Martinez. For a bit, it worked. And then he couldn't get out of his own way. And it come crashing down. When you look at that Everton team, I still have tears in my eye. when you look at the quality we had and the money that came in, should have took Everton into the Champions League, really, with the right signings. Didn't. We went the other way. But we've had Allardyce.
Yeah.
We've had Benitez. We've got Sean Dyche. You know, these are managers that are all about pragmatism. You know, you don't really need to throw like Tony Pulis in there, and you'll have got that set of that kind of safety first manager. But those managers, none of them have worked. The harshest, I've said this many times, the harshest one treated was Allardyce, who actually done all right. No one wanted him, and Everton fans wanted him gone, and yet he's performed a million times better than what this manager has. But where Everton are right now, Sean Dyche came in and kept Everton up, and everyone should be grateful for that, because he did. And last year he coped well under real difficult circumstances, but he still had a terrible run of 4 months without a win, which would have seen him sacked at any other time. It would have. Doesn't matter whether people agree or they don't. He'd have been sacked. But he kept Everton up and all that. But this year it hasn't worked. And it's a case of me personally, every manager comes to the end of a cycle. I spoke to a former Everton player yesterday, had the conversation with, about where the club is and managers that come to the end, and he just said, this is Erik ten Hag all over this. Everybody knows the manager's getting replaced. Everybody.
That's it.
He knows it himself.
Including him,
Exactly. And the players have stopped responding. And therefore, you're in that. I have always, with football, I've always looked at it and thought, players can't wait for an excuse. They love an excuse, footballers. And if they can start going, it's not really me, it's the manager.
Yeah, they can smell blood, can't they? And they know that actually,
you know, they down seal. So Graham Potter, if he was to come in, he's a totally different kind of coach than what we've had over the last few years. How do we as a fan base, this is for you too, how do we as a fan base get behind that and sort of accept that it's an opportunity if and I'm saying if, and this is the caveat, if it goes well, to change the course that Everton are on and have been on. I remember you saying it when we got Benitez in. It's almost like just holding pattern this for the
it was,
and
wasn't it?
And we've been lucky as well, by the way. We've been incredibly lucky. We are still a Premier League football club, thanks to Frank Lampard, thanks to Sean Dyche. But now, how do we move away from it, Ped? And will Potter be someone you'd get behind? Obviously, you get behind him, you know what I mean?
Potter's an interesting one, isn't he? Because he does tick every box, but that major one being that he's available right now just makes him the outstanding candidate, doesn't it? I think he's not my first choice, but I'm also not gonna sit here and be, beholden to my first choice, because
who is your first choice?
Who won 5-0 at Southampton on Saturday?
It is Frank, but I also. The Bournemouth man. You look at someone like the Bournemouth manager, and you also look at Marco Silva.
Iriola's brilliant.
Iriola, Silva. There's a generation of coaches in the 40s, and Potter's sort of one of these in the 40s who have got a win rate probably around 40 to 50%. I think Potter's is actually just below that, but that's obviously because when he took over at Brighton, it wasn't great at first, and obviously went to Chelsea towards the end. So they're all sort of like much of a muchness, but I do like Thomas Frank, because I do like his personality, and I know. Listen, he has those ups and downs, but I wouldn't hold that against Potter if he become the manager, and I wouldn't hold it against anyone. And I think that's the first thing as a fan base we have to do is sort of like get out of our own way as a fan base. But this leads me to a really interesting thing, and I don't know if it's applicable this season, but it certainly has to be applicable next season if all things go well, is we have to stop worrying about relegation. Like, that's the first thing we have to stop doing. We have to allow someone to build without that fear of, oh, look where we are in the table. And I know that's really hard, and that's going to be could be difficult for all of us, including myself, looking at the table at a certain point. But I think that's what done for like Marco Silva was we were all fixated with this idea of, oh, we could be relegated, which seems nonsense now where you look at where we are now to where we were then with Marco Silva. But I think that's the first thing we have to get out of our heads is we have to be able to take risks, calculated risks, on the pitch, off the pitch, wherever it needs to be. And that means you have to remove. And I think we've mentioned it loads of times this season is the minute Sean Dyche introduced that factor into this season of relegation, it puts a different spin. And I don't think other clubs do that. No. Other clubs don't think like that.
I don't mind them doing it in February, near the end or whatever, going, look, we're in a dogfight here. March even, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't mind that. That's circumstance puts you in there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you go from it. But
I just think we have to get away from that being like the number one. That's you can't build. You cannot build. And Iriola's a really good example of that at Bournemouth. You can't build anything if you've got that shadow or that worry behind you. I mean, we watched Iriola at Goodison Park, you know, six games into it, or was it eight? And they were terrible. They were passing out the back. We caught them twice. We scored off it, and we were sitting. All of us must have been sitting there going, "This fella, never mind Sean Dyche getting the sack. This fella's getting the sack." And they played through it, and they learned, and look where they are now. So I think that's the first thing, and that's for everyone, by the way. And I include myself hugely in that. We have to give whoever comes in that patience to say, "Go and do it."
Or we're just sticking a plaster.
Yeah,
on
because I spoke to my dad about this, and obviously my dad's watched, and your dad will be the same, and all our dads in many ways all have watched Everton over the years, and me and my dad were talking about this, and like, and it's a terrible thing to say, but it was like, you know what, that thing of like, knowing people go, you might be better off going down, it wasn't a case of that, but you know, my dad who is in his 70s, and like, I fear Everton relegated more for him than me, because I just think that's a terrible way for someone, our fathers who watched great Everton teams, to be seeing this in there, like, you know, in their. I mean, it's just basically middle age now, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's just middle age, being 70 now. But what a terrible way to be spending anyone's retirement, maybe watching Everton in the Championship. But he even said to me, it might be the best thing. We never talk like that, but it's that thing of like, we need a massive reset, and if that was the reset, then so be it. In many ways, not we want it or it's the best thing, but there has to be this idea of take that out the equation. That you stop.
I think that's the before anyone misinterprets what you're saying, because people
no, of course they will.
They love it. It is the thing of just remove that fear. Take the fear away, because you can't build by stick and plastic. This is my point. Sorry, I've asked Dave about this. This is my point when I just mentioned Allardyce and Benitez and Dyche. Is that how do you ever build, Dave, if you're always just putting a plaster over it? Because I've heard this with regards to the ground and things like that. It's like, it'll all be all right when we get to the ground. It's like, why? Like, why will it be all right? Because we're not putting any blocks down. We're just going, I tell you what, we'll do this next year. You know what? We'll start building in next year. It's like, what are you, like, when does that build start? I hear it now with some, you see the odd person in the media, you know, some of these divvies who want to talk about the club better than what the fans know. You know, Everton, just, you know, relegation battle, but what do they expect? And you're like, well, what we expect is the starting point of a journey. When does that starting point ever come, Dave? And I'm not sure there's an ideal time anywhere. You have to be brave, don't you?
You do have to be brave. I mean, lots of stuff to pick up on. I agree with you in terms of it'll all be better when we get to the new stadium. Why? Because selling a few corporate hospitality packages is not suddenly going to make, you know, us a better goal scoring threat.
No.
You know, yes, it is for the future of the club, but it's not going to suddenly change things overnight once we move into the new ground.
No.
My dad was also of that sort of same generation and same opinion, who, you know, things would be muted sometimes, where you kind of go, sometimes sides are better off going down. But those days have gone, unfortunately, because the gulf in money is just not the same anymore. You know, the sort of the time when our dads would say stuff like that, where you could drop down from Division 1 to Division 2 and actually get rid of some dead wood and rebuild and then come back up again, you know, straight away. Yeah, there was a logic behind that, but it doesn't work like that anymore, especially not with our financial predicament with the stadium, which just sort of magnifies that situation even more. I think in terms of the mentality of the club and that thing where, you know, there is that overriding fear of relegation. It's true, because as soon as the fixture list comes out, right, in the summer, the first thing, well, there's a few things we do. We look at the fixtures, we look at where the derbies are, we look at a couple of other key things, you know, who we got on Boxing Day, etc., etc. But ultimately, we look at the last few games and we look at the run-in. The reason we look at the run-in is we try and work out whether we're going to be in trouble and whether those teams are going to be beatable when we're scrapping at the bottom. And that's the reality of it. We're not looking at those last 5 and 6 games thinking, are those the games that we're going to get points to actually get that European place? They're going to be, who have we actually got if we need to be scrapping at the bottom? You know, good, there's a couple of, you know, there's an Ipswich in there, there's a Southampton in there, there's a Wolves in there, or whatever it might be, because you kind of go, they will be good points. You know, you don't want to see someone like Arsenal or City on the last day of the season. And that's the mentality that we have, and it's inbuilt, and it's sad, and it's extremely negative. I think with Potter, I do agree that he's the outstanding candidate, but I agree with you, Ped. I think someone like Thomas Frank would give me far more confidence overall as a person. And I give you this one then, because the Potter situation is mixed. He obviously did well in Sweden. He did extremely well with Brighton. He went to Chelsea and it didn't work. Now that's got to be a big alarm bell for me, the Chelsea situation. And we know kind of there are certain factors we believe why that didn't work, but that's got to be a concern. I.e., he's never actually proved himself at a big club yet. And that's the reality of it, right? So far and away, if he were to take the Everton job, it would be a big test. Under big testing circumstances. My question to you, Pet, well, to both of you, is this. Obviously, bearing in mind that conversations happen behind the scenes, if you had the option now of Frank in the summer, guaranteed, done deal, or Potter now, what do you go for? And by the way, the Frank in the summer is also reliant upon Dyche seeing out the end of the season.
I'd have to go for Potter because I just truly don't.
Because of the relegation threat.
I just don't. I don't. I've been saying this since probably November. I just don't think this fella can keep us up. I just don't. I just don't think the way we play will get. I just don't think we'll get enough wins.
Yeah.
And that would be the perfect scenario. And that is the thing they have to weigh up, isn't it? Right now is that those kind of scenarios, are there people, and we've seen this with Roma. Roma obviously won the Rome derby at the weekend as well, and Ranieri looks like he's starting to turn them round a little bit, and they've looked for
16 out of 24.
So they've used that sort of scenario there as well. They've brought in a fella who knows the place, and he's going to help them bring in the next manager. If you could almost bring in that scenario, I don't know. The only real person who could do that is Moyes, and I don't really think Moyes wants that at this stage of his career.
Well, he said he doesn't he?
Yeah, that would be the scenario you'd look at, wouldn't you? Going, you know, a Moyes into the end of the season kind of thing, and then, but he's not going to want that.
Well, it's disrespectful to Moyes as well, isn't it? When you think about it, because he kind of goes, hang on, they want someone just to bloody be a caretaker for
exactly.
for the last few months.
Yeah, and there is no equivalent of Ranieri. I mean, if there's a equivalent, it's probably Joe Royle. But in terms of like where they are and retired and everything and what they've done in the game, I just fear. I really do fear. I really fear that. Just looking at the body language of the players at the weekend in the Forest game, they look, and I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's looked like this for quite a long time. Is this idea of like, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do with these tactics? Like, we are never going to score because we don't create. It's no coincidence that we haven't hit the target very much in the last few games, because Dwight McNeil's not in the team, who is our special teams deliverer, isn't he? It's set pieces. This team has been built to score from set pieces, and it's never evolved anywhere because we don't have a manager who knows how to evolve, because he's never had to do a job which was there was always that when you're at Burnley, and you're doing it year in year out, and you keep on buying players to do it and change it, then there's no need to change, because what can you change into? And he's not a manager who's got the ability to change, and that's the thing I think we've all said is you can't have a manager who can't evolve if you want to evolve your club. So no, I mean I'm sure Baz will maybe have the similar thought on that. But you probably want Potter anyway, I think, don't you?
I think Potter. Listen, I like Thomas Frank. I think he's got the personality. I think.
If they were both available now though, and it's literally A or B, what would you go for?
No, I wouldn't wait till the summer, to be honest.
No. Sorry. Okay. Another hypothetical scenario, right? Right now. If they're both available now, who'd you go for? Because I'd go for Frank as well.
I'd probably edge towards Thomas Frank.
Yeah, I would,
because of his personality.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's got broad shoulders, and I think he's the type who. But I understand. I've spoke to people about Thomas Frank, and they've gone, yeah, but just go and look at his record. He's not great. Well, Brentford aren't great either.
Vincent Kompany's record wasn't great, was it?
What I'm saying, this is the thing. But with your first question of wait till the summer for Frank, no. Because, again, I've been saying this for a while. This is a problem that Sean Dyche has had. Everyone believed he was going to be replaced no matter what. So, therefore, hanging on to it, you cannot just cross half a season off and go, we'll address this in the summer. Right? Me personally, Everton need 5 wins in 19 games. They'll be safe. A couple of draws, they'll be safe. Right? But right now, we've won 1 game in 11.
Yeah.
We haven't scored in 8 of the last 10 Premier League games. On Saturday, there was no invention.
No.
What's Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Me personally, I wouldn't be starting him anyway.
We didn't start.
No, that's what I'm saying. And no surprise, Everton looked a million times better with Brien up front than what they do with Dom up front. Right? That's not always on Dom either, because he came on Saturday. And my dad wouldn't really criticise. He'll watch it and then he'll give his thing. But he was like, there was one in the second half, I think it was the Corey, just wellied it at him knee height, and it hit him and went away, and he ran after it. But and I think even Efan Okoku, who was the co-commentator, was like, what's he supposed to do with a pass? Like, what is the plan here? And he's running around, and you can see him just looking totally and utterly like he's checked out. Because I'd be like, what am I supposed to do? And the tactics never got any better. No. And yet you look at Bournemouth, and Iriola's gone in. They've got 2 fast wide men. The direct at times, no problem with that. And people mustn't misconstrue what we're saying.
Well, hang on.
We want to play passes. I like the direct.
I think we're looking at the wrong game, personally, as well, by the way. Because I think if you look more, we should be talking more about the Forest game.
No, but
what I'm saying is, Forest aren't that different from us in style.
Yeah.
But look what they do with what they've got. They had, when we played them, the back four solid, like pretty much ours is. But they get men around Chris Wood who wins everything in the air, and then they feed off him, and then they move forward. And they've got invention in midfield, not invention. They're just busy, and that's Forest are in the top 4, and probably will get Europe this season, especially with the Champions League probably going to 5th. So look what he's done with that team. Iriola's built it over 18 months.
My point was, I was saying about Iriola was, they bought Semenyo. I know they had Semenyo, but they got him from Bristol City. They took a chance. He wouldn't have got a chance in that because he hasn't played in the Premier League. Ouattara came from France, who Everton, ironically, Lampard tried to get, and it didn't work out, and he went to Bournemouth. They had them 2, but Sinisterra was injured. Otherwise, they'd had another flyer there he took from Leeds. So they built a certain way. I'm saying, now with Everton, if you put, and again, this is going back to my point with Ipswich, if you put more bodies in and around the box, you score more goals. You just do.
It's not just that, though, is it?
There's a belief problem as well.
What I was going to say is, when we talked about this last week, Bournemouth's back 4, the oldest player was 23.
No, I know, but it's
stuff like that, though, isn't it?
They have got injured. They had 8 men out.
But the point being is, there's they just mentioned there's a belief, and you've got a young back 4. You're not going, we need to bring in.
It's funny. I'm listening to on the way in. I was listening to This Is Football with Stick to Football. Martin O'Neill's on it, and he's talking about talking about
the Forest stuff.
Yeah, the Forest and Leicester as well. Though, like you said, when he was at Leicester, we had Frank Sinclair who could catch everything. He was quick. He said, but when you've had Steve Walsh and Matt Elliott, they didn't want to go anywhere. They didn't want to get out and be progressive because they'd worried about getting back. When Sinclair's in there, he could get back. But you see that with Everton, we're terrified of getting out and getting forward, and yet. That I just think if you got a manager, someone like a Potter, say, or other progressive coaches, Iriola, if he come in and took Everton on, he might have similar players that we've got now. He might be able to grab a couple in the window, but he would make the team play in a different way. And that, personally, I think will get us more goals.
Yeah.
They're not saying Everton, you look through and go, he should get 15 and he should get 8, whatever. You still have to buy some goals in. Of course you do. But doing what we're doing hasn't worked all season. We've got 15 goals in 19 games.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Dave can jump in now. The point being is that the negativity has got to a point where it's like we've ate ourselves. No, that's what I'm saying. We've ate ourselves, haven't we?
Yeah, and I think going back to what we were saying before, I think that the crucial thing is now, and this is even more reason why a change needs to be made and quickly, is that it would appear that the players are pretty much down tools, and you know that they can smell blood. They know that Dyche is in trouble in that respect, and you know, as we said before, they love an excuse, and it's an opportunity. They don't really know what they're doing. No one's taking responsibility. The only person that is taking responsibility, frankly, is Jordan Pickford, who, as I say, without another superb performance from him, you know, would have been a drubbing, and things would be far worse.
Do you think, though, Dave, that, I mean, just some of the players there, when we say they love an excuse, it sounds very, very negative to say that, but I think if all of us were in a situation like that, it must start really rubbing off badly, mustn't it?
Can I just jump in for Dave? Even for the manager, though, like, without, you know, let's forget the players for a sec. Even the manager, if I'm the manager of a team, and like I've just said to you both, players love an excuse. If I'm the manager of the team and I can sense they know that I'm not on solid ground, how do you get them going? Yeah. It's like you see this with a lot of managers. Ten Hag, I keep going back to him, but that was because that just drifted, didn't it? Gary O'Neill at Wolves, you get a feeling when someone...
It's a tailspin, though, isn't it? You don't come back from it, and that's the problem, and that's why these changes in personnel have to happen, because you get into a situation where only a fresh new beginning is going to do anything.
I think... No, I'm going back to my original point. I just think players, like anyone in any work environment, they must get sick and tired if something is so negative all the time. Yeah. It's so everything's the same, and they're working on the things that they believe are the wrong things. And to me now, I feel like the media. I think the 3 draws were almost like over Christmas or before, where like everyone was bigging it up and the media were loving it and stuff. And but I do think the last two defeats and the fans' reaction to those defeats on social media and stuff, and also just seeing how bad we were on Saturday, I think the media who are looking for a story have woke up to it now, and I think that is the beginning of the end, because the Freakins only a few days ago were like, oh no, he's fine. We've got no plans to get rid of him. Within days, we're assessing the situation, and that's simply because the fans are sick and tired of it. They look at the table. I mean, if Ipswich had held on, God forbid, what it would have been like even worse. And now the media's starting to pick it up, and that's it. Now we will be the story now for the next month or so, because the fan base are asking the questions. And therefore, the media will ask the questions if there's enough noise.
So even for him as a manager, that's not good, is it? Because now it's out there for everyone to discuss. How do you come back from that? Do you know what I mean?
Well, he shouldn't come back from it.
No, I know, but I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. The whole thing is now rocky ground, isn't it? Because if you're the manager, how do you return?
I think his general tone, I don't know about you two, but his general tone of what he said in press conference since the Freakins have taken over, I think there is more of a demand. There's more of a demand now. He knows there's a demand. He knows there are people to sack him now. And therefore, when he says, and I even think, and this might just be me, I don't think he makes that double sub at half time against Bournemouth if there's no...
No, what Zach said to me, Zach had gone home and he come back in and seen Armstrong and jogging on here, and he's trying everything here, isn't he? Just to say, I do play young players, and I do make changes.
I tell you what, and sorry, I'm going to have to go in a second. As a bit of final positivity, I thought that Harrison Armstrong looked very good when he came on. I thought he looked composed and he had some great touches. And I thought for a 17-year-old lad, I thought, well, it's just good to see.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. I think this has just been a miserable episode that we just needed to get through.
Just get through it, get it off with fun and games next week.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll be in the 4th round of the FA Cup, because Everton do have a game later this week against Peterborough United, and we'll see who's in the...
But we haven't got a Premier League game till a week, Wednesday, so what a time to maybe make a decision.
I think that's why they are assessing it right now. But let's leave it there. Let's Happy New Year, everyone. We will
see what happens when we don't have a comedian on the show. The whole tone just gets dragged down.
Exactly. Come back soon, Sam Avery.
Can I ask you one question before you go, though? Before we all go, do you know what day bin day is?
Oh, well, funny you should say that, because so it's normally a Tuesday, so it goes out tonight for tomorrow morning. But obviously, Tuesday last week was New Year's Eve. So then we had Thursday last week. Anyway, it's back to normal as of bins out tonight for tomorrow morning. And I think it's recycling this week.
Yeah, who knows at this stage? No one knows.
My bin day's normally a Monday, but it's Tuesday, because obviously it was a Tuesday last week. But next week it's back to, just for everyone.
I think it's
well, when's yours, or don't you know?
The recycling went today.
Right, okay.
James's, it's just all in the street.
That's in the street.
Just in the street, isn't it?
Recycling all.
It's just everything's just in the street, James's street, because they don't have bins.
They don't have bins, but there you go.
Again,
they just have bags put on the pavement, which is
there we go.
Mad times. Right, let's leave it there. Dave, huge thanks. Well in, mate. Take it easy.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Like, subscribe, do all that stuff. We'll see you next week. Bye.